Started. Just a note, I'm using halal meat, halal chicken, so I can feed you guys, because, that's nice of me. So I'm just going to get started making adobo chicken tacos with lime crema and pickled red onions. So there's 3 components to this, that's why there's 3 recipe cards. So there's the adobo chicken tacos, the pickled red onion, and the lime crema. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the adobo chicken. So, to do this, we have to marinate our chicken. So for our marinade, I got some lime, spices, and some oil. So I'm going to start with my spices. I'm making double, but I'm just going to read you what the recipe says so I don't confuse you. So I'm going to start with 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of paprika, 2 teaspoons of ground black pepper. It's best to ground it whole instead of using like the pre-ground stuff because there's more flavor in it. And then in addition to that, I'm adding garlic powder, a teaspoon of that, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of chili powder. All in here. I'm just going to dump that into my bowl. Now I'm going to juice a couple of limes, 4 in my case because I'm doubling it again. So to do that, cutting board, let me move this out of the way so you can see. So I'm actually going to zest the limes too. The zest is the outside. I just take the grater and just kind of like shave it all the way around. And actually, most of the flavor of the lime is in the zest, so it's the best component of the lime in my opinion. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my knife, cut it in half. Well, actually, I'm going to zest it first, my bad. So it's better to zest it first and then juice it because then you're dealing with like a lime that's already juicy and you're trying to zest it. So I'm just going to go ahead and scrape it along here. You don't want to go too far down because you see if it's actually working, but you don't want to go too far down because then you get into like the bitter part. You just want to get the green part because that's where all the like citrus oil is. You don't want to do too much either, because then it just gets overpowering. So I'm just going to do this 4 times, and in the meantime, if you have any questions, just let me know. Yes?
Chef Thomas, why don't you use lemon instead of lime?
Lime is just it's more like considered Mexican cuisine, and it's tacos, so it just has a nice like citrusy flavor to it. Not too like, you don't want like a lemony kind of taste to it. Lime just tastes better. Kind of gets tiring just zesting over and over again, but it's got to be done or you're really missing out on a lot of flavor. So that's as far as I'm going to go just for time's sake. Now I'm going to juice my limes, which is pretty simple. You just want to cut it in half. Be careful not to cut yourself. So I'm using 4 right now, but the recipe calls for 2. So I'm just going to juice it right into the bowl. Careful not to get into your eyes, because that'll hurt. And this is, you can do it without lime, but then it'll just be more dry, and it'll really lack that like citrus flavor.
There's also a certain amount of acidity in the lime that helps break down the chicken.
Exactly, yeah. And having a juicer like this is really easy. You just press down, all the juice comes out. You don't have to like mess with it or squeeze it. Because when you squeeze it, it's kind of hard to get every single bit out. Because there's always some up here that you don't get to. So it's just easier to use a juicer like this. And then that is our limes. So now I'm just going to give this a quick mix just to make sure it's all the spices are evenly distributed. When I mix it, it's kind of going to be like a wet-dry kind of combination because there's more spices than there is lime. So to solve that, I'm just gonna add a little bit of vegetable oil. So I'm gonna add about a tablespoon. And then I'll just continue to mix it up. So you see it's kind of like a spice paste now. So it's not like too liquidy or too solid. So now I'm gonna deal with my chicken. And it's important that you have a clean environment when you're working with chicken because it's really easy to cross-contaminate. So I have about, let's see, 2 packages of chicken, 1 if you're making it, the recipe by 1. So I'm just gonna cut into this. And these chicken pieces are a little small, so I'm just gonna add these in whole. And when I'm dealing with like chicken tenders, these are chicken tenders, so they have like a little tendon on the end here that you want to just cut off real quick. And that could just be discarded.
And this brand of chicken is actually crescent chicken that you can buy at Walmart. Walmart has just introduced halal chicken to a number of their stores. So.
Do you wash the chicken or just like?
No, you don't need to wash chicken because it'll be cooked and all the, like if there's any bacteria, as long as you cook it over 165 degrees or 155 degrees, sorry, it should be fine. And again, you want, once you're done working with chicken, you want to get rid of anything in the area, like this cutting board. I'm using for chicken only.
When did you start cooking?
I started cooking when I was about in 4th grade, I think. Yeah, I was 8. And then just during like quarantine, I got more involved with it, you know, just like testing out new recipes.
Did someone inspire you or just like?
Not really. It's just more like curiosity, really. But it's fun, so I enjoy it. So now that's my chicken. I'm gonna get rid of my gloves real quick. On with my cutting board.
I was gonna say, you've got a fish pan in this, so you can wrap it up.
Alright, Alright. Now I'm just gonna put these gloves on in a minute. You know what? I have big hands and these are small gloves.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I have some. And I stocked the kitchen.
Yeah.
Did you make this recipe yourself?
Well, I actually got it from the Culinary Institute of America, but I've like modified it to an extent where it's kind of mine now. Because the original recipe didn't involve some of the spices that I'm using now, and actually like used more of like the chicken. So I kind of like modified it to be my own.
Do you cook for yourself or feed the family?
It depends because right now I'm pretty busy with work and school, so I enjoy cooking for myself, but it's just if there's time, I can do it. If not, you know. Anyway, I have my chicken here. I'm just gonna mix this up as much as I can, just so every piece is coated. And I need a spoon. It's easier to mix with a spoon because it's bigger. So you want to make sure this is all coated completely. You don't want to see any of like the raw chicken showing, because then that means it's not coated or seasoned well enough. Alright, so now I'm just going to set this over here on the counter and it'll marinate for about 30 minutes while I take care of everything else. So, our next step is the pickled red onions, and these are pretty easy. Usually when you pickle something you have to like let it sit in vinegar for a few days, but these are pretty simple because I'm just going to pour boiling liquid over my onions. So, ingredients wise, I have 1 cup of red onion, 1 garlic clove, I have some salt and sugar, a half tablespoon of peppercorns. You can also use ground pepper. but the peppercorns pack more of a punch. Yeah.
Why are we using sugar?
The sugar just tones down like the acidity of the vinegar, because if you have straight vinegar, it's kind of just like, it makes you, it's like when you're eating a lime, it's just like, makes you spin, you know. So the sugar kind of tones that down. So, I have a saucepan here. I'm gonna add my dry ingredients in, which is 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1 tablespoon of salt, and then half a tablespoon of black peppercorns. Now I have water and vinegar, yeah. So, I'll grab these 2 things. And again, I'm doubling the recipe, so don't worry about the measurements as of now. So, I'm adding in a cup of vinegar into my saucepan. And then a half cup of water. And then I'm going to turn this on medium heat, just to let it come to a boil. So all that sugar and salt is dissolved. Now for the onions, the fun part. I never liked cutting up onions because they make me cry, but sometimes you just gotta do it. So to cut an onion, you want to cut the top part off like this. Not the root. The root kind of looks like a spider. That's how I remember it. You want to keep that on. So you want to cut the top part off. And then, 1 second. You're going to want to cut it in half from the root end down. So now I can remove the skin. It'll be like a layer of skin I can remove. It's pretty easy just to pull off like this. Yeah, what's your question? What's that?
Why do you leave the root on?
I leave the root on because when you take the root off, that causes the onion to like release like their enzymes that make you cry basically. It's kind of like their defense system. So as you can see, it's pretty simple just to pull off the skin.
What if you have a white onion?
You can use a white onion as well, but I just prefer the red onion.
Your white onion is going to have a sharper taste. A red onion is a little bit sweeter, not quite as sweet as a sweet onion, but sweeter than your white cooking onion.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes the onion is kind of troublesome getting the skin off. But you just can take your knife carefully and use the heel of it. This is the heel of the end. And just kind of like prop up the skin, and you can peel it off easy. So now, I'll just set this one aside for now. Clear off my cutting board. And when you're slicing your onion, let me move these out of the way. You want to have your hand like this, and a claw, so when you're cutting, your fingers are not in the way and your knuckle protects it. You can see when you go up and down, your knuckles protect your fingers. So I'll do that. And you want to slice it as thin as you can, but you can't do too thick or too thin, or then you really, this is like, the flavor won't be there. You want to cut up to about 1 inch or so off the root, because once you get to the root, you start getting like the hard part of the onion right in the center, and that's not good. So I'll just throw that out, and I'll do the other half. That, and I'll do my other one real quick, and I'll answer any questions you guys have.
Chef Thomas, what other sorts of things have you pickled?
I've pickled cucumbers to make pickles, and I've pickled jalapenos as well. But I'm not really into pickling as much as some people are.
Don't you just go about the jar of red onions from the stove?
It's actually a lot tastier if you use fresh onion because you know what's actually going in it, and you know like actually like you're making it, so you trust it more. But you know if you're short on time, of course, you can buy it from the store. And then this last one here, I'm going to take care of real quick. All right. So now that I can take this out of my way, and for pickling, I'm going to use this jar here. I'm going to put my garlic cloves at the bottom, and then I'm going to fill it with my onion. It's best to have a wide jar so that it can be spread across and all the liquid will cover it. So I'm just going to fit as much as I possibly can in here, pack it in there, because that's the more flavor you'll get.
So this is for garnishing, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that looks like it's about as much as I can fit in here. So, our liquid looks like it's just coming to a boil, so I'll go ahead and turn that off. And then very carefully, I'm going to pour this in. Try not to splash too much because it's boiling and hot. And the boiling liquid will immediately permeate the onion and make it pickled. So I'm going to fill it up as much as I can. And then I'm going to put the lid on this, and it will sit and cool for the rest of our fermentation. And then they'll be ready at the end. So I can let this sit over here. What's that?
Yep, we're in.
All right. Let me just set this aside here.
Say unless you just want to, if you have any more pickling, you can just toss them in.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with the extra onions?
The extra onions, you can save them. You can put them in a package and use them for another cooking, or another recipe or something. Or if you don't have any use for them, you can throw them out. But of course, using them is better than wasting them. All right, now for our lime crema, which is pretty much the easiest thing you can make that will help your tacos. So, there's 3 ingredients: sour cream, limes, and salt. And it's really important that you put the salt in because it really enhances the flavor. The salt is not something that make it salty, it's a flavor enhancer. So, I'm gonna find another bowl. This one. So I'm using a half cup of sour cream right into my bowl here. And then I am going to have to find a spoon. And I'm just going to break it up and mix it up because when sour cream sits for a while, the liquids separate from the actual solids. So I'm just going to have to mix it up real quick. Make it nice and creamy. And now I'm going to add a quick pinch of salt. You don't want to add too much or it gets really salty. You just want enough that the flavors will be there. And I'll mix it up again. Now for our limes again, I will be zesting. So let me get my other zester in here. And of course, you always want to zest the lime before. Trying to zest your fingers too. So as you can see, the zest just comes out green like this, because that's just the very outside. And again, feel free to answer any or ask any questions I can answer on doing this.
Chef Thomas, do you like cooking sweet food too?
You know, sometimes I do, but right now it's just been really just I enjoy like cooking savory food.
What sorts of things have you baked before?
I've made like cinnamon rolls, cookies. I really like making different types of cookies. Brownies. I've made all sorts of things. I've made homemade ice cream before. That's really fun. But I like using a lot of fresh ingredients to make stuff.
Where do you usually get your ingredients from?
I usually get them at Westboro Market where I work, because you know, I get like it's nice. I actually like the produce there. It's pretty nice, so it's a nice place. Did you have a question too?
Yeah, what kind of food do you like?
I like cooking Italian food a lot, just like pasta and like chicken dishes are really good. But other than that, Mexican cuisine, Spanish cuisine, yeah, and kind of like Asian. Sometimes I get into, you know, but whatever I feel like, you know, I can just go for it. And I also like trying new things too.
Do you plan to be a chef in the future?
You know, that's a good question. I'm still kind of thinking about it. But if I were to choose now, I would probably say no. But it's always a great skill to have on your hands. Alright, that seems like enough lime zest. I'm just going to hit it, because there's still some on the end here. What?
The green thing of the lemon. Other thing.
Oh yeah, well this is a lime, but yeah, exactly. This is the outside. So, now I can juice these limes that I zested. Again, just cutting them in half. And juicing them. These juicers are so much better than the other juicers, like where you like press it, because it really squeezes every last bit of juice out.
And unlike the ones that, for those of you that joined me last month and watched the lemons, you don't end up with any seeds. So you're not
Exactly,
pinching
yeah,
seeds
these
out of
holes
your-
prevent any seeds. But limes don't have seeds, so nothing to worry about. So, that's all my limes. I'm gonna give this a quick mix. Actually, I have one more lime, sorry. I'm gonna give this a quick mix. You can see it's pretty liquidy on top. I'm just gonna mix all that liquid in carefully. If you mix too fast, it'll all splash around and it'll be a big mess. It'll take a minute to mix it and combine it, but once you have it, it'll be pretty liquidy. More liquidy than sour cream. You can see this, yeah. It's just like a nice sauce. So now that is done, I'm gonna set this aside until it's time to assemble our tacos. And our chicken's still marinating, so I'm just gonna take a second to clean up and answer any questions you guys have. I always find it easy if I clean as I go, because then I prevent making a big mess and I have to clean up when I'm done. So that is that. Any questions? Are you sure? Anything? Because we still have a few minutes just till our chicken is done marinating.
What are some of the kinds of foods that you guys like to eat? Does anybody have a favorite type of food?
Chicken masala.
Chicken masala?
India.
We just had Indian food.
What are your guys' favorite restaurants to go to?
Mediterranean. Dearborn.
Thomas, do you ever make fresh pasta?
I have, but not recently. It's kind of like a big hassle because you have to make it and then let it sit and then roll it out and cut it and then use it. So it's kind of hard to do that. It's kind of time consuming and tiring. But when I do, it's really good.
Have you ever cooked like for the holiday, like you cooked everything?
Oh yeah, one Thanksgiving, I think it was last Thanksgiving, I cooked everything. The turkey, the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, the rolls. It was pretty extravagant, but I don't think I'll ever do that again. It was pretty tiring. So, yeah, props to everyone who cooks the whole meal.
For someone who's young, what advices would you give if they don't know if they want to go?
I think everyone should try new things and work with fresh ingredients. Those are the two best things I could offer. Because when you try new things, you can figure out what you like and what you don't like. And then when you use fresh ingredients, you could really like taste like the full power of like the actual ingredient.
And as parents, should we let them on the kitchen? Explore?
I think as parents, it's a good thing to like gradually let them in the kitchen. Like
Okay.
my parents didn't like throw me in the kitchen and say when I was 4 like oh cook something. They were like oh here's how you make chocolate chip cookies. You do this, and then it got more advanced.
Gradual.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna go over my next few steps while our chicken is still marinating. I'm gonna hold on. This mess is bothering me. All right. So I'm gonna take my chicken and cook it on my cast iron until it's finished, and then I will cut it up. And then after that, I've poured tortillas here, which I'll lightly fry in a pan here just to get them nice and warm and toasty, and then I'll serve it up. So we can start doing that.
And we did make sure that there's no bread in the tortillas.
And get some more gloves.
Prefer soft shells or hard shells?
I prefer soft shells just because it's easier to eat them. Like when you have a hard shell, when you take like the first bite, it breaks on the middle, so it's kind of
All your
hard.
ingredients are on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it turns out into nachos instead of tacos.
Exactly. Well, it can be good in some cases, but in this case, it's not.
Like,
Gloves hard to get on.
I'll remember to stop somebody doing
Thanks. All right. Here. All right, for cast iron, you're gonna want to let this preheat for about 5 minutes before you put any oil in. You want to make sure it's nice and hot. I'm gonna put it on medium heat, and then I'll let this go for a few minutes before I add my oil.
What type of burner do you have there? Because that doesn't look like a regular stove.
So this is an induction burner. It's like magnetic, and it, correct me if I'm wrong, but the heat kind of like just flows directly to it, and it heats it up more efficiently. Because with the gas burner, you have it above, and then the heat is kind of lost because there's more space around it. So this is more direct and quick.
It also cools down first.
Yes, exactly, yeah. But it's loud, so
It is.
it's hard.
I heard that with induction burgers that the sides kind of don't get hot and it's more focused in the middle.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. All right, I'm gonna grab my chicken over here. Just give it one more stir. So it hasn't been 5 minutes yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and add my oil. About a tablespoon or 2, just enough to coat the bottom. Then I'm gonna swirl it around. And with induction burners, it doesn't like when you pick it up, but I have to. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that will heat up for about a minute. You want to get as hot as possible, so you can quickly sear the chicken, and then it can finish cooking that way. So I'll let that go in a minute.
Why do you want to sear the chicken?
So searing the chicken is basically where you like put it on a super high heat at first and then lower it down. But it'll make all the spices nice and caramelized and crispy, which will kind of bring out all their flavors, nice and toasty.
Thank you, Chef.
All right. So our oil is getting there. I'll give it one more minute. Alright, that seems good enough. So I'm just going to take my tongs, and when you're working with oil, you always want to be careful because you can splash yourself and burn yourself. So you want to lay it away from you instead of like laying it towards you and then all the splash comes this way. You want it going away from you.
Have you ever burned yourself?
Yeah, I have actually. But you know, when you burn yourself, you learn from it. So like, oh, I can't do that anymore, I'll burn myself. So you actually learn from it instead of just saying like, ow. So I can fit about 4 in here. You don't have it too much in here, then it steams rather than cooks. Like steams rather than fries. So let this go on each side for about, let's say 4 minutes. This is the longest part because you get hungry at this point, you start smelling it, and then you have to wait and wait and wait for the chicken to be done.
What was the first dish you ever made?
Oh, the first dish. That's a good question. It really started like, I cooked with my dad. He made like chicken nuggets a lot and like pasta, so I did that a lot. But more recently, when I started getting more advanced, the first dish I made was, let's think. It was actually a dessert. It was like a chocolate cake, homemade with homemade chocolate frosting. So that was really good. And that made me really appreciate like cooking.
One time I brought brownies for a school project. I gave everybody a piece, and they started ordering. They ordered me to make more.
Oh yeah. I have to be careful like when I give my food to like my friends because they want more and more. So it's kind of hard.
Do you have a channel, like a YouTube channel?
What's that?
Like a YouTube channel? Are you?
Oh yeah, I do have a YouTube channel and I have an
Oh, yeah?
Instagram. Yeah, it's cooking. It's called Cooking with Thomas.
Oh, okay.
So you can just look it up. You know.
If you want to get really hungry, look at his Instagram.
Yeah. You can see it's already getting pretty cooked. It looks cooked on the outside, but it will take a few minutes to get it cooked on the inside. So I'll just let this go for a minute.
I think you have one more going over there.
Oh, I do have something. I'll show you in my bag. So, I use this a lot when I'm cooking. It's really useful. It's called an instant read thermometer. And the second you stick it in the chicken, it'll tell you the temperature. And it's really helpful because you have something like chicken that needs to be cooked to like about 155 degrees for it to be safe to eat. And it's really helpful. And it helps you use it.
Thank you for remembering to bring that stuff, Thomas, because I forgot.
I actually just got this for Christmas from my uncle. Because he likes to cook and I like to cook. So it always gives me nice little gadgets.
We bought one just before Christmas, and I meant to grab it when I stopped by to get the best there. I do most of my cooking at my mother's house because she'll clean up after me.
So, I'm going to flip the chicken right now. You can see it's pretty nice. It's nice and brown here, but I'll probably have to end up flipping it 2 more times just to make sure it's nice and cooked. I'll set the temperature now, just a mess, you know. See, it's like 84 right now, so it's definitely not ready to eat.
Please don't play some chicken. Now, why is it that you have to get it to a certain temperature? If you were not to cook it to that temperature, what would happen?
So chicken contains like bacteria that can cause salmonella and cause food poison. So you just want to be safe and cook all that bacteria out. And cooking it to that temperature kills all the bacteria, period. So you don't have to like get worried about that. And you can also use like just a regular frying pan. It doesn't have to be cast iron. Cast iron is just nice because it's durable and it can like, it's so you can like have it for years and it's fine. So it's nice and trusty and super soft.
Cast iron also, once you clean it up, holds the heat longer, so you get a more even.
Exactly.
But
All right, let's see. So you can see on this side now, it's starting to get more cooked. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the temperature of this one here. Just to kind of show you how long it takes to get there. So it's about 115 right now. So I'm gonna give it a few more minutes just to cook on each side. It'll bring up the temperature.
that's no question over here.
Could you also bake the chicken?
You could bake the chicken, yeah, but when you fry it like this, the outside gets nice and crispy with the oil, and the spices are more flavorful that way. But of course, you can change out the recipe as much as you want, and it'll still be just delicious.
What sorts of other Mexican dishes have you attempted to cook?
I've made quite a bit. Let me think. It's hard to go through my mind. I cook a lot. I used to cook a lot, that is, but it's just hard to remember everything I've made. I've made enchiladas. I've made birria tacos. Those are really good. I've made chili con carne, which is really delicious. I like using like the fresh dried chilies, and then I roast them, and then I blend them to make like a spice paste, and those are really delicious.
Have you ever attempted a mole sauce?
What's that?
Mole?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Well, we made churros.
Churros.
Say it again? Sorry.
We made a churro.
A churro? No, I haven't, but that's on my list. Yeah, I have a big list of things I want to make, and that's on there. I think pretzels are on there too, bagels, but bagels are kind of,
Bagels are tough.
yeah, they're tough, yeah, they're really tough.
A lot of pastries.
Yeah. All right,
So the
I'm gonna give
probably
these,
was just lie back and that. The idea of dipping my food in lies.
yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and give these another flip. And then tempt them one more time, and then that'll determine how long they need. So the ones closer to the middle of the pan are almost done, just because they're closer to the heat source. So I'm going to flip them around just to make sure all the other ones on the outside are close enough, so then they cook equally.
Do you wash the dishes after, or?
Yeah, I do wash the dishes, yeah. That's one of the, it's not like a bad thing, it's actually a good thing. Because when you make something, it's just kind of like a good rule of thumb to clean up after yourself. Especially with kids too, like that's how I was taught, to clean up after myself. But sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not, because you're tired after, but you know, it's a nice skill to have too. There's lots of benefits of cooking, obviously.
So how do you manage your time? Cooking, school, working?
It's kind of hard, but I kind of prioritize my life, just like school, you know. School's up there, work, kind of hard, but I always make time for cooking, like 3 times a week at least. But there was a point, like, during like the first lockdown where I cooked every day, dinner, and it was kind of nice experimenting with new recipes and things like that. Yeah.
If you didn't have time to cook, do you order out?
Oh, what's that? Sorry.
Do you order out?
If
I
you
order
don't
out.
have-
Well, I enjoy ordering out, but I also enjoy cooking, so I kind of have to balance it out.
So, like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
My family doesn't like to order out. They enjoy when I cook, but it's always a nice break.
there's so much chef.
Yeah. All right.
It's so good.
That's not very good.
You have to be really careful because this produces a lot of smoke. So we have the smoke detectors covered just so it won't set off, but you want to just be extra careful around like smoke detectors because then they'll go off and then people will think you're like having a fire. go ahead and turn this down to a lower heat. Just a lower heat, just a medium low. So that it's finished cooking all the way through. I don't want to burn the outside and let the inside be undercooked. I'm gonna let this go for a few more minutes. It says on here like the direct list of ingredients, but you can switch things out. You can experiment a bit. You know, you can add things on top. Like today I'm adding cilantro on top, just as a little garnish. But you could switch things in and out. You could add cheese if you want. You could add lettuce, anything you want. But I like keeping it basic like this. Alright, so it looks like these things are done. So I'm going to take this pan here. Cover it with foil. And then I'm just going to put my chicken on here.
We need another set of tongs or something back to top.
This one?
Yep.
Yeah, especially with cooking chicken too. You don't want to take the tongs that you like took the raw chicken in and take it out with. It's just not safe. See, people might think this is burnt, but this is actually much more flavor than there would be if it wasn't like this. So this is like charred. Like if you go to like a steak place and they have like charred salmon or something, that is really like it's more flavor, intense flavor. So I'll take this chicken off, and then I'll go ahead and add some more chicken. And I'm going to add a little bit more oil just because I see it's just a little low.
What's your favorite type of fish?
What is your favorite type of fish, chef?
I'm thinking, let's see. I like trout and tilapia a lot. Those are like my favorite. I like Chilean sea bass too, but that's pretty expensive and hard to find around here.
Have you ever tried the mahi-mahi?
No, I haven't. But again, that's another thing on my list I want to try. I also like going to new restaurants and trying out new things as well.
What are some of your favorite other grocery stores besides Westbourne?
I like trying out like cultural places like Greenland. I like them because they have more like Arabian spices and things there. There's a place in Plymouth, I think, called Cantoro, and that's Italian. They have a lot of Italian goods, aisles and aisles. I spent like 3 hours in there, I think. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. But you have to go there when you have a lot of money on you, because you just like, oh, I want this, but I try a lot of new things. And then also, there's a place I want to go. It's in Troy, I think. It's called H Mart, and it's a Korean supermarket. But I just haven't had anyone go there with me because it's so far away. And
If you're looking for a smaller version closer, you need to try Park the Shop over on Telegraph and Joy.
oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of that. But yeah, I'll check that out. But
That's like one of my new favorites.
oh, really? Okay.
What was the best dish you ever made?
Dish. Question. No, I think doing my yeah, no. It's up there though, but I like meat getting steak. I cook it on the oven, and then I stick it in the oven, or start it on top of the stove, and then I stick it in the oven to finish up. But that's pretty hard because then you have to coordinate a lot of things. Like if I make side dishes with it, it's kind of hard. Like, oh, I need this in the oven at this time, and this cooking at this time to coordinate it all.
Have you ever made a risotto?
Risotto, yeah. I made it actually last week. Like I was on a Zoom and we got our lunch break. And I spent all hour making risotto and I got to eat it like while I was on the Zoom. But I tried making mushroom risotto as well, yeah. But only when I get fresh Parmesan cheese, it's good to make risotto. Because when you get stuff like packaged, it's not as good. I like the fresh stuff where you can just like grate as much as you want on there. Fresh and it's delicious. Yeah, it's expensive.
I think the next dish you should make dishwasher.
Oh, that'll take, how many days do you want now?
3. Yeah, that'll take a while, but I want to make beef Wellington. I could, but it has mushrooms in it, and not everyone in my family likes mushrooms, so it's hard like to cook. And it's hard to try newer things, like more modern things, because my family's pretty picky in that sense. So that's difficult.
Is there any type of ingredient that you really never want in a dish because you don't like it?
I don't like mayonnaise or blue cheese. So I kind of have to work around those things. It's not often where you find like mayonnaise in like a fine dining dish, but you know, like something simple like potato salad, I could deal with that, but it's just kind of like the thought of mayonnaise in there. It's just not too good for me.
Potato salad, you can't taste the mayonnaise.
What's that?
The potato salad, you can't taste the mayonnaise.
Yeah, but it's just the thought of it having it in there, you know, it's just kind of troubling.
Or maybe hit mayonnaise.
Oh, I don't know. I just don't like the texture. The thought of like eggs in there, you know. But
So you haven't tried to make your own aioli or mayonnaise?
no, I haven't. But you know, I just got over not liking tomatoes. I used to not like tomatoes at all, but I really have just like a more grown appreciation for them. I used to have like a BLT the other day. I never thought I would have a BLT because like the key in there is tomato, so I just never thought of it.
Tomatoes in the summer are the only time I really,
Yeah,
or you have
yeah.
to cook them really down like you do for pasta. I
Yeah,
don't like
tomatoes in the summer are the best because that's when they're in season and they're fresh. Michigan tomatoes are coming in; they're delicious. But whenever you use a tomato, you really want to make sure you salt it because that brings out all of the flavor and the moisture in it and makes it even better.
Have you do lot of competing in those cooking
You know, I
shows?
wish I was, but I'm like in the middle. Like they have like the junior version that's like 12 to 13, and then they have like the adult version that's like 18 to 18 off. I'm like right in the middle of that, I'm 15, so it's kind of hard to find one. But yeah, I wish I had thought of it when I was that young.
Do you plan to open a restaurant maybe in the future?
I have thought of it, and I have like thought it out, and you know, if I were to, it'd be more of like a steak place, like a fine dining kind of place. You know, like fresh ingredients, things like that. But yeah, one day I hope. It's expensive to own and manage a restaurant like that. Alright, so right now I'm just gonna take the cut of these chicken breasts.
The bird is really yelling at you.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Alright, so the chicken's at like 112 right now. This one's at 150, so I want to take the smaller one off. Just keep beeping.
I think it thinks there's nothing in the pan. It may be getting a little warm.
Alright, let's see. So while this is finishing, I'm just going to throw in the rest of it. Just to make it go more efficiently. And there's only 2 more small pieces left. Alright. Keep these out so I can cook them. And then that's all my chicken that's going to be cooked in a minute. Meanwhile, that's lime crema. I'm just going to mix because I can separate the liquids. Give it a mix, and then I can open up the pickled onion. I'll leave this over here for now. And then when it's done, I'm going to take each taco and add a couple pieces of cilantro on top. Just a nice little pop of green on there, make it like, you know, just a little bite to it. Cilantro's delicious. Some people don't like cilantro, like it has like a soapy flavor to it, but I really like it. But yeah.
There's a statistic that says that only 9% of the people who taste the soap is cilantro.
Really? Oh, yeah, my dad's like that too. I don't know. I like it. I don't know how you can taste soap.
Do you usually get your recipes from reading books or from watching?
Well, I get my recipes from a few different places. 1, from cookbooks, 2, like online, and 3, from like YouTube videos. Like I watch a few different people on YouTube where, like, you know, I trust them to have a good recipe, so I take them from there.
Who do you watch?
I watched Binging with Babish, Joshua Weissman, there's a few others, but I just can't remember them. But those are my main two go-tos.
Have you ever watched the Tasties Making Their Dish?
Oh yeah, Tasty Making Very with Alvin, yeah, I watched that a lot. Those are interesting. But yeah, sure. They also serve it as like some like they also serve as like inspirational things. You know, like oh, they made this, I can turn this into this. I can make it like this. But yeah, I really like experimenting with it. They're at 140 right now. And when you're taking a temperature or something, you want to stick it in at an angle, and then like kind of leave it in the center, the thickest part, because that's where the coldest temperature will be. So that is almost done. Just a few more minutes. I'll give these pieces a few flips. You can get a thermometer like this pretty cheap. The more like advanced ones, this one's pretty nice. It's expensive, but you can get some for like cheap, like $15. It's pretty simple, and they're useful too. They're durable. They last a long time. So, you know, it's pretty nice to have one of these around, especially if you're cooking something like chicken, where you can risk like salmonella or something like that. But once you do it for a while, you kind of understand like, oh, I need this to be like 10 minutes on each side. I need it to be like 5 minutes. Then you have like a more general understanding of how long it should be. See. I'm going to use some cutting boards here. The one I cut my veggies with. I'll clear it off here. And then I'm going to just start chopping or slicing my chicken up. So I'll take each piece. And I'm just going to slice it into thin slices for the tacos. All the way down, and that sits aside. I'll do that with every piece. You don't want it too thin because that starts falling apart. Like that. That is so close to being done. Just can't wait. I'll continue chopping up chicken here. Think you speak and get me in trouble.
It really does not like to.
I know.
Fired, you need to learn time sucker.
I saw one that I feel really good.
Oh yeah, because you're throwing it every time you
So when I'm cutting the chicken, I have to use the tongs, which is kind of like a guard, or like a guide, more like that, a guide. So just to make sure I'm not cutting it too thin or too thick, and I know where the knife is. It's the best thing to know where the knife is, because then you have more control over it.
Are you doing like a line?
What's that?
Are you doing like a line?
Lime?
The light.
Oh,
I'm
lime?
cutting it in lines.
Oh yeah, I'm cutting it in a line, yeah.
Not like it when you put the chicken to a line like.
Yeah, they're gonna be like that in a line, yeah. It's easier to arrange them in a line like that.
They're lined up rather than shredded.
Push it sideways.
Yeah, yeah. You can see like in a stroke like this. So I'll just set this all back onto my tray here. Move my recipes out of the way. It's always good, like, you know, when you go through a cookbook and you see a dirty recipe, that means that it's used a lot and just got, you know, not necessarily as bad it gets messy, it's more fun that way.
And there goes some good pasta sauce.
Yeah.
It is.
But I usually make a big mess, but I'm the one that has to clean it, so it doesn't matter. Alright. One more final attempt at this. Alright, that's definitely done. That too is definitely done. And then,
That's very hot.
I know, it is hot. Let's see, this one should be almost done. And when you clean cast iron too, you want to hand wash it and dry it immediately, because then if you have the water on it, it starts to rust, and then you have to re-season it. That takes a while. Seasoning, you can put oil on it, put it in the oven for a long time, more oil, and it's just a pain. But I haven't been there yet, but if I might.
I have a bunch that I need to be seasoned.
Alright, I'll go ahead and give these a slice.
Are we
Grilled
cooking the
ham.
tacos?
The tacos?
Are we cooking the tacos?
Yeah, we are.
You've emptied up the shelves yet. Thomas, if you need a hot pan, there's two that are right behind you.
Alright,
So set that cast iron on.
alright,
There's a silicone one and then a cloth one.
alright.
Not the right
Perfect.
one. If you'll notice too, there's a grip, a plastic grip on this pan, a silicone grip, because your whole entire, when you have cast iron, your whole entire pot gets hot. Never grab a cast iron pot by the handle unless you have a hot pad on or it has a cover, because it will burn you badly.
That's right.
What's an alternative for vegetarians? So if you don't have chicken,
Um,
what would you?
do veggie.
Grilled veggies,
Yeah.
like peppers. Portobello mushrooms are really good, give a really good meaty flavor and have that same texture. A firm tofu, press all the water out and you can fry the tofu like you would chicken. Not necessarily getting the process like chicken made from tofu, because that does almost as much environmental damage as raising farmed animals, if you're trying to, you know, avoid that kind of thing. A tip for tofu is that you can freeze your tofu, and when it thaws, the water kind of flows out and leaves little pockets, so when you marinate it, it soaks up all that marinade.
Couldn't you also use the KFC's Beyond Chicken Nuggets?
You could, if you really want. I would say, do you ever watch the shows where, yes, they high cuisine, fast food? Because that's what they do with a lot of that. They'll take stuff from restaurants and turn it into haute cuisine instead of fast food.
Alright, this is taking a while, because the pan was giving me some issues. But we're almost there, don't worry. So close.
It smells so good.
I know. I was testing this recipe the other day, just, you know, like have a general idea of how long things will take. And my mom was home and she was ready to eat, and I told her 20 more minutes. It was devastating, but yeah. This is the longest part, just waiting for it to cook, because chicken takes a while. Yeah.
Why do have like the thing for the taco, the bread?
Oh no, it's fine. He's got taco shells in those bags.
Yeah, they're right here. In a minute, I'll show you what I'm going to do with these.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah. But then I'll put them on this in this pan here and just toast them lightly, and then I'll put them in these holders here. They're gonna go like.
I used to eat like a lot of tacos.
Really? Yeah, I do too. They're really good. Yeah, I can eat like 4 of these when they're done. It's just, they're so good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and check these again. They should be done. Not yet. Almost.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it takes a long time. should just be able to leave it on like medium low heat to let it finish cooking. I'm gonna go ahead and check this one. Just cut it open and check it. Sometimes that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, it's done. You can tell when it's done, when it's completely white all the way through, and you can see it's nice and juicy and moist. So close. There's one left.
I saw this one funny post.
Yeah.
It said, why don't we have medium rare chicken? And then
Oh,
have a chicken.
I think I saw that too. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. You know, steak is good medium rare, but you know, chicken, you get you sick. I'm gonna go ahead and check this. Cut it open. Yeah, looks almost done. Let's give it one more second.
Ah,
Yeah, sometimes the oil splashed open, but you just gotta be extra careful. You could also grill these outside. I did that over the summer. I made this recipe and I grilled it outside. It makes it a lot quicker, and then there's more flavor from the grill. Alright, I can go ahead and trim this off. And then I'll cut these final pieces of chicken. Alright, I'm gonna move this out of my way over here.
Those are your two pockets.
Alright, there. Cast iron's heavier than usual, so when you go pick it up, if you have a cast iron pan, pick it up for the first time, don't be surprised how heavy it is, because yeah, it can catch you off guard. So now here I have just a regular frying pan, exactly. I'm gonna set this on medium heat. You can hear that noise, it kind of sounds like a whirring noise. That's just like the heat, I think, right? And it's just like magnetizing and connecting to this piece here to conduct the heat.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
Yeah, Thursday is a good thing. And I said the same thing, it's okay, it is making noise.
Yeah, I got one of these for Christmas last year. Yeah, I was concerned the first time I used it. And it's only, is it metal?
Yeah, you have to have steel, cast iron obviously, or the sauce pot that was being used, well, it's an aluminum sauce pot, it has a steel bottom on it. Or you have to have, we actually do have an interface plate that you can use any pot on, where the plate is steel and it heats up and conducts the heat through the bottom of the pot, which I had to do yesterday for the ladies making cocoa and s'mores for the ESL class.
Sounds good. Alright, so this is heating up. I'm just gonna let that heat just for one more second. I'll prepare all of the other ingredients here. So you can just go ahead and like take the tortilla, put it on your plate and fill it up. But I always like to toast it. It adds a little crunchiness to it and a little flavor. It starts to get a little brown. And color is flavor in this case. So I'm gonna take like 2 at a time. Right on the grill, or the pan. I can actually fit 3 on here. And about a minute on each side, or less, it depends. You have to keep checking it. So you can see, oh, if it's browning, then you take it off. If it's not, you leave that for a few more minutes.
You want a third set of tongs? The other box has another set of tongs.
Alright. Yeah, you
Just
need to
underneath
keep
it.
the tongs.
What even the
Red.
Then I have to play these ones will touch us together.
I know.
When where's the?
Oh, how does he bend it? That little W form that he's got in the back counter?
Yeah, you'll see. Those are very useful. I just got those.
Or you can, there was a way, I was just watching, I can't remember what it was, where you can turn it over the top, like the edge of a baking pan, upside down, to kind of U-shape it.
Yeah, it's very
So-
useful.
Use skewer.
You can use it, you could use a skewer to hold it together too, yeah.
Or you can just lay it flat and then bend it when you're eating it
Yep.
too.
Yep.
That's what I usually do.
Because these are not crunchy shells, these are
Soft.
soft.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not heating them long enough that they get crunchy, you're just heating them long enough to get a little bit of a tan on them.
See, these are starting to get a little crunchy, or no color yet, so that means they still need more time.
You need 4-gram box too.
Alright. Everything's in the box.
Everything, that is, yes, there's a presenter box and a participant box, so yes, everything in the box. So I don't worry about those in kind of repackable.
Yeah, I know. I'll give these a quick mix, because sometimes the ones at the top don't get as pickled as the ones at the bottom, because it's just not enough liquid.
Did you just did a pickle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're pickled right now, just because of the boiling liquid.
Oh.
It heats it up real quick and pickles it right away. And then it cools down and gets pickled even more. Interesting.
Could you ever overpickle something? Like, if you're putting the pickle in a jar and you're putting it for 1 month and you forget about it?
No, not really, because when you're pickling it, it's not really cooking it. It's just kind of like permeating it in vinegar. You're just making it like preserved, I guess you could say.
Would it ever like
No. Well, it depends. If you seal your jar well enough with no air in there, then no air will get in there and mold it out, yeah.
But for the most part, pickles, because of the acidity of the vinegar, pickles really last a long time, so you can keep pickles in your fridge for like a year, and they're really not gonna spoil, unless you get a lot of grossness in there. So, the level goes down a little, you're not gonna talk, but it's gonna spoil. We discovered that we pickled Brussels sprouts one year, and they were actually really fabulous. And my son like ate them 6 months later, and he said they were the best things he was. I want you to pickle Brussels sprouts more. They were fabulous.
Right. You can see here, these are kind of like the bad roots. They're not bad, but they're more like scraggly at the top. You can see here that they're starting to brown. Yeah, what's your question?
I forgot the last part.
The what?
The last part.
The last part about
Almost
what?
for the last part.
Yeah, we're almost there. These take
No, the last when you did the
the chicken?
No.
Oh, that's okay. Let me know if it comes back to you.
These are peppers, what is it, peppercorn? The pickle?
Yeah, they are peppercorns. You can leave them out. They're kind of hard to work around when you're eating them, but they're edible, but they just have like a really peppery taste. Because that's where pepper comes from. They're just ground up to make the ground pepper.
So do you keep it in the fridge or?
Yeah, when you're done with this, just stick it in the fridge.
Okay.
And you can really, like I said, you can keep pickles for quite a while. So you keep the jar well sealed, because the acidity keeps it from spoiling. But still, it's one of those ways that you preserve things. Is that is pickling, because it does, the acid keeps it from.
Exactly. So these tortillas are about done. I'll use these as my example ones. What to do. So when you're done, you stick it on here, and I just kind of like press it in the middle so it bends into the form. And again, these are the more ugly tortillas, but.
Can I see it?
Wait, let's see.
And then I put it in here, and then bend it, and you see they're like tacos. Yeah. So I'm gonna put more on here while I'm assembling these. Alright. Alright, so when I assemble my tacos, I start with the lime crema. It's just a nice like base. Is there another spoon in here?
Yep.
Alright. So I just take a nice spoon of this, right down the middle, on all three. You can leave it out if you don't like it, but try it, it's delicious.
Shouldn't you put the chicken first and then the sauce, because I feel like the sauce would get the taco shell soggy and the
To be honest, you could do that, but I like to have the sauce at the bottom. It kind of holds everything in there, kind of like glue. So if you have it at the bottom, it holds the chicken down, and then you just hit the onions on top. So now I'm just going to add a few pieces of chicken on each one.
I did like 3 of them.
Well, I'm making 3 here, but usually I could eat like a lot.
Like all of the tacos like in 1 week.
No, I wish, because my family has to eat them too, but I think I could eat one of them if I really wanted to.
Especially if you get those like Main Street tacos.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you can just eat like, if you like tacos, you need to like eat like you need to eat all of it in one day.
Yeah, exactly. It's really hard to reheat tacos because then you have the shells that you have to redo, and then all the toppings you have to store, and those kind of don't stay fresh for a long time. But you know, overnight, sure, but a couple days, I don't know. So now I'm just gonna fork out a few of my onions. It's okay if peppercorns get on. They're not anything bad.
If you want to make it spicy, what would you add?
If you want to make it spicy, you could add, if you really want it spicy, you could add a half of a habanero pepper and just crush it and put it in there. Yeah, but those are really spicy. You could also add a jalapeno or a serrano pepper.
And you can pickle your jalapenos just like you pickled your red
Yeah,
onions.
yeah, you can pick almost anything you want. Like,
In
yeah.
the summertime last year, we grew scorpion peppers and
Oh,
we put it in our chili. And
oh wow.
if you touch your cheeks over your hair after you put it,
Yeah.
when you go to your pores and it's burning inside.
Oh yeah, it's bad. I know. I tried a habanero at work because I work at Westbrook Market, and we sell things like that. So I just decided to give it a try. It was okay. It wasn't like as bad as I thought, but it was really packed a punch.
The small green and red ones, those are like the best, like the giant peppers.
Yeah. I agree. I grew those too last year, but they're pretty delicious. All right, so these are almost done. And I don't know how we want to do this, because you guys can have some if you
And
want.
so we have
We have
plates back there.
here. I can just go ahead and put one on your plate.